June is Audiobook Month. Join Viviana, the Enchantress of Books, and the Audiobook Lovin Series as she celebrates the authors and narrators who bring your favorite stories to life. Not only will this month be packed with exciting guest podcasts full of all things books, but stick around after each episode for some special information about this year's giveaway and more.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 10, Episode 12 of the 2024 Audiobook Lovin Series. And we're celebrating our 10th year anniversary, which I am so excited about. Today, we have returning guest, narrator Patrick Zeller with us today. Welcome back, Patrick.
Woo, 10 years. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a great 10 years, including having you back several times.
It's cool. This is cool to be here. You're fun to talk to. I like it.
Thanks. Yeah, it's for me, it's always fun. And this is also the whole point of the series initially was about getting to know you individuals as the narrators and the authors, aside from what that book process looks like and, how did you get started and for all that fun stuff. But we've talked about all this stuff already. So I'm going to include our previous chats information as far as links for those that might be joining us for the first time over in the episode's landing page. And we're just going to have some fun kind of getting to know you as a person, human being, and asking you some fun questions.
All right. I will do my best human being impression.
Thank you. I know you're really good at that. All right. So we're going to start with a favorite question of mine because I actually do have cauldrons. I have several of them, all different shapes and sizes. I do.
No way.
I do.
Do you have anything in them right now?
No, well, in one, I do have a charcoal disc, which is the one that I burn my incense and my herbs in, to smell the house pretty and, just
Are you
vanquish.
casting spells like right now?
Not right now. No, because I'm talking to you. I'm focused on you. You might be casting a spell on people listening to this with your voice and the answers, but that's on you.
Stop it. Stop it. No. Knowing that your cauldrons are ready to go has me at just the right amount of alert. So that I'm pleasant and prepared.
Oh, you're always kind.
And ready to party.
Hilarious. Okay, so if someone was to summon you via a cauldron, what three ingredients or things would they have to have in order to bring you forth?
Ooh, a sandwich, a really good sandwich. I'm a sucker for that. I mean, that's it. Or like a panini, like a perfectly toasted panini with some yummy salami and I don't know, whatever other charcuterie you want to surprise me with.
Okay.
A good sandwich. That's one. The second one, second item in a cauldron to summon me, like just a really good scotch. Single malt blend, I'm good, whatever. A really good scotch. And then for a third thing to summon me, throw down like a really mellow lo-fi beat, with maybe some jazz hip hop influence in there somewhere. And
Nice.
I will like float into the room. That's
nice. Between the smell of the sandwich, the scotch, and the music, you're just floating in, right?
I just told you like my perfect first date, I think.
Right? Well, or if you're ever hanging out and like if you come over to my house, I know exactly how to welcome you into the house, right?
I will be there. I might not leave.
Right.
Keep the sandwiches and the scotch flowing.
I do like entertaining and I love having people, but my love languages is like acts of service. So when it comes down to knowing that, let's say you were coming over, whether it was for dinner or even just to hang out and, watch Bridgerton, I don't know, or any other soap operas that you might have been in. I want to make sure that you have your comfort stuff or what makes you happy. So I would have the scotch and I do have a panini press.
I'm in.
So
I'll check my calendar as soon as we get off.
Perfect. Speaking of love languages, what are some of your love languages?
My language, honestly, it is acts of service. It is. It totally is. Because, like, I don't know, actions mean something. I mean, people can say whatever they want, and it's nice to hear. Like, definitely nice to hear. But if I don't see something, and sometimes gifts are an act of service, right? If it's the right gift with enough thought, like just giving me stuff that you like or giving me stuff you think I should like or that you want me to like that's well, but a real like thoughtful gift or an act of service, and it could be a dumb service. Like, you know what the best thing is my wife, God bless her, if she knows I'm having like a really hard time or I'm stressed about whatever, if I'm just in the shower on like a Sunday afternoon and I just finished mowing the lawn or something, and someone's arm slides behind the curtain with an open beer, oh my God. What a simple, simple gesture that lets you know that you are completely cared for. And oh my God, I'm going to weep just talking about it. Let's just
Aw.
cared for and appreciated and thought of, and no words, no like backbreaking planning has to be done. Just like what a tremendous gesture. Anyway, that's probably where I go.
Yeah, I was actually when you were mentioning sure, I'm like, and it's gonna be either the Scotch alcohol, or in my husband's case, depending on the time, coffee. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, coffee goes a long way, especially like a good cup of coffee. Somewhere around when I stopped putting dairy in it. I don't know, maybe like 10, 15 years ago. And well, first I stopped with the sugar and then I stopped with dairy. This is like, back in my late 20s. And then, I would just drink it black, but I still wasn't like trying. It was just, I was drinking whatever was around kind of thing. And then I started getting good coffee. And then there's like no going back. If you're drinking it black anyway, and then you start drinking like really like well roasted stuff or lightly roasted stuff and just real, ah, yeah. I love a good cup. Creamy, medium bodied, lightly roasted. Oof, Costa Rican. That gets
nice.
me. That gets me right where I need to be.
Yeah, see, yeah. Again, you and my husband will probably be the best of friends.
Oh, good.
He loves his coffee. He's picky in particular, and we have possibly every machine known to man that can make some kind of coffee in this house
I
because
love
he
it.
loves it. Yeah. So I'm like, you want a
Yeah.
cappuccino? Do you want a latte? Do you want to, this or that, espressos,
Yeah,
Cubans,
yeah,
whatever? We
yeah.
got it.
And it all happened so gradually. Like it just
Yeah.
started one day I was just like, I don't need all this sugar. And then like eventually I was like, what am I doing with the milk? Like what's the point? And then eventually I was because I'm not like no dairy or lactose intolerant or anything like that. I just like was like, what am I doing? And sometimes, I'd be at like a temp job or something, right? Like struggling actor in New York and all the break room would have would be like some powdery stuff to put in. I was like, nah, don't bother. And then, then you're drinking better coffee. And then like someone says, well, do you grind it yourself? Like, well, it seems like extra work, but then, well, I could grind spices too if I need that. And then you start grinding it yourself and then you get used to it. And you're like, oh, it's just like an inch at a time. And then all of a sudden you're a coffee snob and you're like, who the hell am I? When did this happen? Anyway, so I appreciate a cup of coffee for sure.
Yeah. Now, but we won't go into it, but we have to make sure you have the right grinder for those coffees too, because you don't want to heat them up. So you have to have a specific kind of grinder for the coffee.
That's intense. That's next
See?
level.
Yeah,
That's it.
see, I'm
My
telling you.
brother-in-law, he does, everything's a hand pour. Everything is like really meticulous. He doesn't have kids or he's got time. He can do stuff like that. I will probably end up there, but it's going to take me another 5, 10 years before I'm in a place where I'm hand pouring every single cup. But I can see it. I
Yeah,
can see it. I've
we'll get you.
tasted it. It tastes
Yeah.
good. Like he knows what he's doing. So I mean, I
Yeah,
get
it's
it.
amazing how we're like we love to, but we're like, you know what, right now I don't got the time, so this is what we're gonna stick to.
Right? And then you get your routines and then you're kind of into it. So I feel you. I feel you.
Absolutely. So what is one thing on the kind of opposite end of calm and cool, calm and collective coffees? What's the one thing that will get on your nerves immediately?
Um, there's so many. There's too many. Dear God. Well, traffic, right? Like people in traffic being stupid. People saying stupid things on the internet. That'll get on my nerves. People saying stupid things on the bumper of their car. That'll get on my nerves. My kids leaving crap around the house. Ugh, gets on my nerves. Yeah, I mean, throw a rock. There's plenty of shit that gets on my nerves, but I've been getting better. I've been trying to be real intentional about it because, like,
Okay.
I'm getting to be middle aged now, and I know that I've only got half my life left, right? So like, why do I want to spend so much time being angry all the time? That's no, I feel like Bill Burr. Like it's like I've had enough therapy to know that like this is not necessary. I don't have to be so pissed off all the time just because there are so many things that make my life more inconvenient than it needs to be. Just like see it, acknowledge it, let it go, and move on. But I guess those are my big ones. It's the little, it's like we were talking about when we first started talking. It's those little things that like, you wake up, I wake up in the morning, I usually clean the kitchen up, right? Because sometimes, we'll finish dinner or whatever, and we eat pretty late, and then, we're watching a show or something. And everyone's too tired to clean up. No one wants to clean up. So we just kind of straighten up, go to bed. And then I'm the first one to get up. So I'll clean. And then I spent 45 minutes cleaning, and then I got the rest of my day. I come up and like every hour it's worse and worse and worse. I'm like, what am I living in a frat house? This is ridiculous. So it's that kind of thing where it's like it's the little things that just make my life harder. It sounds like this is similar. It sounds like we're vibing on this. This is familiar territory for you. Yeah, because I don't
Yeah.
mind doing it, but I don't want to feel alone doing it. I'm not doing it because I enjoy it. I'm not like a neat freak. I'm not like it's not like I twitch if it's, not all lined up perfect and the same thing every time. It's just that I like to live in a nice, uncomplicated, not chaotic environment. And if every second someone is adding to the chaos, that just drives me crazy.
Yeah, I've had the conversation of like, listen, dude, it was just a cup of coffee or a cup of water. Can you just rinse it and leave it clean in the drying
For real.
dishy thingamathingy there, right?
Because, but then, like, there's the other side of that, right? Where like then you become the patty pickup, and like
Yeah.
every single cup you see around the house, you like instinctively grab it and throw it in the sink or in the dishwasher because you don't want to look at it, and then everyone gets
Oh,
mad at you because they were drinking from that.
oh no, 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 my dear. Mm-mm. I
No,
stopped picking after them. It stays there.
I can't.
I know, I know. Trust me. I look at it and I'm going, motherfucker, son of a bitch. I mean, everything in both languages, English and in Spanish. And then I'm like,
Yes.
"Whew." And then I keep walking because I'm not helping my kid, who, even though he's 21, learn and not pick up his dad's bad habits of leaving a cup in the, in the dining room table or in
I
by the
love it.
this or that. And even with him. And so, because my other option is to grab a black bag, stick every one
Mhm.
of their cups in there and just leave me with my few favorites. And that's it. And tell them, do not touch it. But that's like my last straw, which my grandmother used to do to her husband. I found out years later because he was one of those, like, he would start a project, leave things halfway, and then do something else and leave other. So it was all around the house kind of thing.
Sure,
And so she would
sure.
get upset, black bag, throw everything away. He would then come and say, "Hey, honey, have you seen my so and so?" She's like, "No, oh, I didn't see that. Maybe did you put it away?" Yeah, no, it was in the
Yes,
black bag.
yes. Yeah, that's a viable solution. Everyone just wants to manage their space, right? You just want to live in a comfortable space, and hopefully you live with people where your version of a comfortable space is there has some overlap with their version of. I did a play once with an actress, a woman, and we had the same housing together. And whatever, it's temporary, it's not a big deal. But she told me she had a literal like some sort of a psychological condition where anything that seemed planned out or deliberate or like lined up perfectly or whatever, something that was neat would like give her anxiety. So she would have to like throw something on the floor or mess up the pillows or like, you know, crumple up a clean paper towel and just throw it on the table or whatever in order to manage her anxiety. And I was like, oh my God, this is this is my nightmare. This is my nightmare. But like we totally got along and had the best time.
Yeah.
Because it was temporary. We weren't dating or anything. It was just like company housing. Anyway, So there is another side to this. I get it. And ideally when you find your person, like
I mean, I'm seeing this more and more too. Those kind of like community living where you buy the land and then you have multiple houses and like maybe like the pool in the center where the whole family. So I'm like, okay, well, I could have one house, my husband can live in the other, and my kid can.
Oh, that's great.
That way he can have all his swords and his armor wherever he wants.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I can have my stuff how I want him, and it's if it's a mess, it's my mess, and I know how to take care of it. But yeah, I'm like, it
Oh, that's
requires
great.
way more money than I
So is he doing like is he doing the LARPing, the live action role play stuff, or
No,
just really into swords?
he has not. We don't have anything like that here where we live. I'm sure if we did, he would want to.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
okay.
but he loves the whole medieval thing, like the knights and the swords, and so we even had a medieval themed wedding. And my formal dining room is actually
I
medieval
love
themed, so we have a lot of the swords up there and stuff like that. Yeah.
I love it.
Good
I love it.
Renaissance outfits for sure. When we have Renaissance fairs that are in the area that we go to, he is all dolled up in a few different kind of outfits that
That's
he can
amazing.
do. Yeah, it's
My daughter and my niece got into it last year. Last year was the first Ren Fair I'd ever been to. There's a big one in upstate New York.
yes.
And we went and it was so much fun. Everyone was in such a good mood. And what I didn't expect was the variety of cosplay going on was so intense. It was really fun. It wasn't all just like one thing. And so that was really cool. And so next year I'm gonna be a little bit more prepared.
Okay, you got to figure out an
Yeah,
outfit.
lean into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because I don't know, it's cool. It's cool. It's
The
fun.
ones that we have here sometimes have themed weekends where it's like either an Irish or a Scottish, and then sometimes they'll do a pirate. So that kind of helps a little bit with like what outfit am I
Yeah.
going to wear this time? But yeah, we'll have to make sure that you have something for your flask so you can put your scotch in it. Thing monogrammed.
Down.
Yeah.
I'm down.
So here's one I have not asked anybody else, but I'm kind of curious as to what your thoughts are. What do you think happens after we die?
So sensitive talking about that, right? Because you're not asking about religion, but you're kind of
Mm-mm.
asking about religion.
Well, am
You
I
know,
though?
you're not. I'd say probably the default is to start talking about religion, right? So I've got a complicated world that I live in. I grew up Catholic. My dad's Catholic, and my mom was Episcopalian. And back in the 70s, when you got married, I mean, I think they still do. When you marry into the Catholic Church, they like, even if you're not Catholic, they make you sign like a contract that you're going to raise the kids Catholic. And so she did that, and it was really important to her that she, lived up to her word, the thing that she signed. And so I did the whole thing. I did the baptism and the communion and the confirmation, and it was just sort of the default. But I also grew up I did the Sunday school thing with her for the Episcopalian church as well. And so I got a pretty as Catholic goes, it wasn't all that different from what the Episcopalians were talking about. I had a very laid back, mainline Christian religious upbringing. But then I ended up going to private school for high school. I was Catholic. And they were also very, very progressive, and so when I got to undergrad and I'm studying to be an actor, I was surrounded by all these kids who had grown up because I was in Boston, a lot of them from Boston, a lot of, Catholics in the area. And man, did they have some baggage from growing up Catholic. Holy shit. And so I didn't get it. But then you start hearing the stories of, what some of these places put them through, and you're like, okay, I get your baggage. I get your baggage. And then flash forward. So I don't know. It was never that important to me, but I was just always a curious person. I'm curious about all kinds of religions and backgrounds, and I'm very suspicious of authority. I've always been pretty suspicious of authority. So I I wasn't going to a lot of church. Flash forward, my wife, we meet, and she was not raised with anything. No organized religion at all. Her parents were bona fide hippies. And when we started talking about like having kids and like imagining what our future's like, some of our first fights were about stuff that I thought was so, I don't know, whatever, just arbitrary. She's like, we're not getting the kids baptized. What are you talking about? And you like, you don't you want to make the old ladies, the grandmas, the great grandma, all the people who that's important to, don't you want to make them happy? It's for them. It's not for, she's like, no, that's saying in public, you're going to do da, 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 all the stuff that they made my mom do. And I'm listening. I'm going, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. If your word is really important to you and you live by, what you believe, then okay. Then we won't do that. We don't do that. But, we talk about a lot of religion and our spirituality a lot. For a while, we did like what is it? The Unitarian. We were living in LA in Santa Monica, and it was like so cool being back in a church-like setting. Like every time I went, I was crying by the end of the hour, the service, or whatever, because someone said something beautiful or inspirational, or the music was just like hitting you just right. It was just like an amazing thing. I was like, I miss this. I miss this communal, like uplifting feeling, and then like it's just this is like when I did shrooms and blah 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 blah. They talk about the anyway, for me, I think I have become more spiritually curious the older I've gotten and more I don't know, it means more, but I also am always looking to connect it with something that we actually do know or understand about the natural world and psychology and how our brains work. And to me, I just feel like when you ask what happens after we die, the question is human beings are wired to be storytellers. That's how we interact with and make sense of our environment. We tell a story, whether it's, through the colors that our eyes are translating for us to our brains, or the sounds that we're, picking up. Like we're using all this sensory input to tell a story about who we are, where we fit in the space that we're in, whether we're walking upright or, falling upside down on a ride at an amusement park. We're telling ourselves a story all the time. And since the dawn of religion, organized religion, someone has been trying to hack that power, our need to tell and hear stories to understand the universe around us. And I think the more we understand about our brains and how we function in groups and physics, science, I think we're getting a little closer to understanding that compulsion to tell a story, to understand who we are. Now, I think when we die, we're still part of a story, whether it is just among the people who knew us before we died, or, the electrons that have, fired off and then moved on to somewhere else outside of our corporeal, um, shells. Those those electrons, they've moved on somewhere else, and they're still helping tell a story somewhere. So there we are, forever carrying on, I guess. How's that?
Yeah.
How's that?
It's good. I think the whole thing with like telling the story and knowing that what we're doing now is going to be part of our story. So making sure that we live our lives to the best and kindest that we can.
Yeah, well, that's it, right? Right? You want to be kind. You want to be part of a good story. You don't want to be part of a bad story.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And things like that. It's interesting with regarding your wife. I was also and maybe the kids too, depending on how it ended up. But like my dad, they were both being Latin American, they were both Catholic. However, with my father, it was shoved down his throat so badly that when they have us, my dad's like, yeah, no, we're not baptizing. And so we didn't
Yeah.
do anything. And we didn't do like sometimes if we would maybe for Christmas, very minimal. My grandmother who lived with us was like, oh my God. But she taught us a few prayers and stuff like that, where it was Catholic, from a Catholic perspective. But it was a lot more about spirituality. And it was about being kind. And it was about in the moment and different ideologies. And so, when I got a little older, I had the conversation with them. I'm like, but why? Like everybody else was kind of, she's like, we didn't want to force you to do anything. And also, this way, technically, you have a clean slate. So if you decide to marry someone that's a Jewish, religion or anything, but also you make that decision yourself. And so, I did a semester of like religious studies to try to figure out where I fit in. And we ended up with like my identical twin sister was a Buddhist, my brother an atheist, and I'm more into the spirituality of things. So we're like, there you go, mom.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. And you everybody makes room for everybody, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
See, that's what's important, Lord. My wife and I, we still butt heads about it because I'm always trying to I'm the asshole who like takes the SAT and like rather than try to eliminate all the answers, I'm instinctively trying to figure out why all five of them are the right answer or possible. You know what I mean? And so when she's usually like saying, "Well, this is bad for this reason, this is bad for that reason," I'm like, "Well, yeah, but my first impulse is to kind of try to understand where people are coming from when it comes to a lot of the BS, the baggage that comes with a lot of organized religion."
Oh,
So I
yeah.
get it, and it's just like you said, anytime someone's coming from a background where something was shoved down their throat or there's some kind of a trauma or violence associated with it, I mean, what do you expect? And honestly, that's what it is right there. You've got organized religion can go two different ways. It can uplift a community by sort of giving them a framework to live the best, most kind and generous, fulfilling life they can possibly live with each other. Or it's the most efficient, cheap, and effective way to control a group of people. And depending on the impulse, you know, motoring it, that's what you end up with. A bunch of
Yeah.
people who say, "This is the greatest gift I've ever been given," or "I can't believe they've done this to these people. I will never allow this to touch my children." That's where it ends up. You're either trying to control people or you're trying to uplift people. And hopefully, hopefully you get to be part of the latter.
Yeah. It just is for me, I'm kind of curious sometimes with that question because it's sometimes this is also where I say, well, am I about talking about religion? Because there's some people that are fill in the blank religions and they're like, oh no, when I'm gone, I'm gone. That's just like a shawl and I don't know where I'm at. Others are like, yeah, the pearly gates, if I'm gonna let in. Because I was having some fun down here.
Yeah. But I mean, why not, right?
Right?
Who am I to say? I can't prove
Right.
anything wrong, and
Right. And
and
then
I'd rather believe in a world with a little magic than a world without. So,
yeah. And I think I remember one, I can't remember if I read it in a book or if it was a movie or having a conversation with someone, but they said that when you die, you go to whatever is your happy place. So whether that it's at a beach or the heavenly gates or, driving that party bus
yeah,
to all sorts of different places,
yeah,
right?
that's
It's,
great.
and I'm like, okay, cool. So it's, again, kind of like what we make of it.
Yeah. I know the limits of my own imagination, so I'm hoping that it's way better than whatever I can imagine. You know what I mean? I'm hoping It's something way cool. Like, 'cause and I can think of some cool. Like, I mean, just the panini and the scotch
Clean sink.
and the EDM is
Yeah.
enough for me right now, right? So, I mean, what's heaven? It's got it. I mean, if it's better than that, oof, I can't even imagine. So,
That's good. What is the one thing that never fails to make you feel better?
one thing that I would say, the one thing that never fails to make me feel better is a hug from my kids,
Hmm.
or seeing watching my kids like figure something out that I helped them with, or just, I don't know, tell me about some cool thing that happened to them. I could be going through whatever, and then you see that sort of little ball of awesome roll across your desk, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's good. There's plenty of good in the world. That never fails. That never fails.
Okay.
You?
Me? Oh, like like sometimes when I'm having a bad day, regardless of what the reason behind it is, my kid from a hug from my kid always
Yeah,
makes me feel
yeah,
better. Yeah. And
definitely.
he's also like learned to sometimes pick up on the, oh, okay, mom is masking having a good day because
Oh,
she's stressed out,
yeah,
or he'll do things, and then he's like, do you need a hug? So
yeah.
I ask sometimes, other times he just comes to me and goes, there.
That's the best. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've definitely turned the corner where my daughter's smarter than all of us. And now not only does she know when we need a hug, she knows when she needs us to need a hug so that she can, set off some endorphins in our brain. And then she's got a big ask all of a sudden. Oh, okay. I see
Yes.
what's going on.
Yeah. When I get that there's a look, and then all of a sudden he wants to hang out with me for a little bit. Again, mine's 21, so it's not going to change anytime soon, I think.
Sure.
And then it's like, oh yeah, I made us lunch, and I'm going, mm-hmm. And then I'm like, and we did something else, and then he just gives me that side hug, and then I'm like, mm-hmm. And then the ask.
Yeah. Then yes.
Yeah, but at least
I
it's
love
again,
that.
he's learned that approaching someone by the right way, right, is
Yep.
a good
Yep.
way to
Yep.
have
Yep.
and start the dialogue when you have a request. We've also had the
Right.
conversation about not just when you have the request to still have that approach. And he's like,
Yeah.
I'm learning. I'm like, okay, good.
Hey, it took me well into my 20s to remember, call mom and dad when I don't need something, or go visit them when I don't need anything from the house or for them to sign or whatever it is. Like, make sure to make time for just being there and being bored together. You don't have to have, a reason to be there. Doing that, normalizing that is like the best thing for your relationship with anybody. I mean, your parents, with anybody. Because, I mean, I definitely silo up pretty hard once I'm, hitting deadlines, freelancing. I've got a million projects and they're changing all the time. And so, poking my head up for air, sometimes I don't do it enough. And I'm only doing it because, oh, shoot, who could help me out with that? They can help me out with. I haven't talked to them in 6 months. And now I'm asking for something. And I feel like such a putz when I do that. So I try to not. I try to like take opportunities to just reach out to people to be like, hey, what's up? But I have to be deliberate about it. I'm not being manipulative. I just have to be deliberate about
Yeah.
it.
Well, I think we have to
Yeah.
work on our relationships. That's something too that even I'm
Yeah.
striving to do and been working on, is
Don't we?
with my friends, not just the memes, right? Like if I see a funny meme, if we had to buy one more crystal, I have a friend, I'm like, ooh, that's us. And I send it, but it's also the fact of like picking up the phone and saying, hey, having the conversations, getting on the phone. And sometimes like Shiloh will text me in the morning. She's in California, I'm on the East Coast. So when she wakes up, she's like, hey, what does your day look like? And I'm
Yep.
like, well, and then I tell her, and she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna hit you up in half an hour while I eat breakfast. I'm like, cool, and then we'll play catch up because we haven't talked in a couple of days or whatever.
That's good.
Yeah, and the
Close
same thing
friends are
with
good for that.
yeah, and the same thing with like the ones that live here, like 5 minutes away. It's intentionally making the time
Hmm.
to hang out with them. I think it's something that because we're so work driven. I know I'm a workaholic. I tend to lose on that. So it's something that I'm trying really hard to focus and be conscientious about. And it's, again, it's not manipulative. It's just making that effort to have that human connection is important. Yeah.
I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. It's different for a little bit for me, especially with my dude friends, just because there's less of a face to face kind of like, how are you? It's like they talk about with the shoulder to shoulder with men. But a lot of my women friends too, it's I think just a text, just a something, just a reaching out, hey, and especially when I get it from someone else, it means so much just to know someone's thinking of you. Oh my God. Because otherwise it's easy for me to start feeling alone. I talk to myself for like 6 to 8 hours a day, for God's sake.
Yeah, you make up friends in your different voices, right?
Yeah. I've got all the friends I need in my head.
But it's true that I think it's also the, our how we manage and work with other friends and stuff, like how I am with some of my girlfriends versus some of my guy friends. I have one friend that anytime, he'll post something about yet again buying another plant. So we have a running joke as far as, so if I have a meme, I haven't talked to him in a couple of days or whatever, even weeks sometimes, but I see that plant and I'm like, there you go. And then it's that 1 second of like, oh, they thought of me. Great, love it.
Just a little
And
something.
just a little something, yeah.
Yeah. And the older I get, the way more important that is. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So here's one that might be a little bit like, ooh, okay for you. Who would narrate an audiobook memoir about your life?
Me. Am I not available? Am I too good for my own book?
No.
No. My son.
Okay.
Or my daughter.
Aww.
But they're adult versions, you know what I mean? Or like my grandson or my granddaughter, like someone who I'm related to and cares about my story or relates to my story. I think that would be the coolest thing. Hopefully they're good at it though. Right?
Well, that's the other thing too. I think with you yourself being a narrator, right?
Yeah. No,
Having someone come in and be like, I don't know.
Yeah, this is why I'm assuming I'm dead.
Yes.
I'm not available. Right? So then it's like this may be it. Maybe in my 80s I'm gonna have to start auditioning my progeny and
You're right.
figure out who gets to narrate my memoir.
Just tell your
Or
kids.
else an AI is gonna end up doing it, and
Oh
that
God,
I
no.
can't have.
Just tell your kids start practicing, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is a hobby that you have always wanted to pick up but haven't?
Piano
Mm.
and drums. I play a little guitar, but piano and drums are two things that I would love to have more time to do. Kiteboarding. You ever seen you? I mean, you're down in Florida, right? Like, so you've seen some kiteboarding. Like that always looks like the coolest thing that I'm too afraid to do. I'm definitely too afraid to do parasailing or paragliding, hang gliding, any of that. That because like, have you ever flown a kite and it catches the wind just the wrong way and then like dives to the ground super fast and you can't control it? That's what I'm always afraid would happen. But kiteboarding, right? At the worst, I just let go. And then I'm fine. I might be stuck in the middle of the ocean or the lake, but I don't know. That looks really fun. That- More cooking. I enjoy cooking. I wish I had more time for it. If I had if I had more resources where I wasn't spending so much time in the booth and I just did like one project, at a time kind of thing. Maybe did a movie here or there every year, or a play once or twice a year, and like had more time. I would definitely make my whole day about doing the meal for the family or whoever's visiting or anything. That I really enjoy cooking. It's more time than I've got.
hmm Yeah, it's a
How's
good
that?
one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I get it.
What about you? What's the one that you
Oh,
like you flirted with but haven't gotten really into?
so I love the sensation of thinking about like the flying, like parasailing and jumping
Yeah.
off a perfectly good cliff to just swing in the air, with on a thin piece of cloth. But I was like, so that's maybe one thing. I think I'm just too logically brain wired and know what all the statistics and potentially probabilities of things going wrong is.
So you don't want to put yourself in that.
Right. I'm the one that would like, I remember having a crush on as I was like in 8th grade, having a crush on my best friend who, a guy got best friends. And we did a ride at Disney that I would have never done on my own because it has a drop and I don't like drops. And it was, one of those things. And so I can imagine having to have someone that's like, get your ass up on that cliff. Like, I don't want them just shoving me off it. But this is also where the Disney ride Soarin' kind of gives me that joy because for those that have never been on it, it literally you sit in a sitting position and then you're taken up into the air and you have a huge screen in front of you and you're also getting the effects via audio, visual, but also smell. So when we're going through a pine forest, we're smelling the pine. If we're going through the ocean and seeing flying over the ocean, we smell that and the noise and stuff like that. So that definitely
like you're taking an acid trip the hard way. That's what it sounds like.
I don't know. I've never done anything like that. I've never done any drugs. I've never been drunk. I've been tipsy, and that's as far as I've gone. But that's the other thing too. I mean, for me, that ride also made me maybe go, oh, okay, maybe one day, that sense of flying, I will have the guts to do it. But yeah, one day, maybe we'll have a book convention narrator retreat or something that I get to be part of or organize. I'm like, all right, guys, let's go to the cliff.
And
go from there.
My palms are sweating just thinking about it, just talking about it.
I know. It's just like, no, it's like, like the ground is perfectly fine.
I dig.
But that flying sensation of being in there is just so freeing, It's one of those things like if we could get up on fly, I think maybe that's why we dream about it sometimes, right? Flying or having that superpower. And it's like that's freeing. So I'm like, yeah, one day we'll see. In the meantime, Epcot is good.
You're like, I got plenty of other itches to scratch.
Yeah. But I also know not to pick up any new hobbies because I end up eventually making it into a business. So I try not to.
It's a curse.
It is. It does. I'm not doing epoxy. I would love to do epoxy, but I'm not doing it because I'll end up having items to sell at the boutique. So nope.
I remember being in high school when I was kind of moving over to the side of, do I want to do this for a living? And talking to just, doing like community theater and stuff and talking to some other kids who would do the shows, and some of them were so talented, just beautiful voices and, gorgeous and really, talented actors. And I'd be asking them, so what are you planning on? Are you going to keep doing this? And they would just laugh and laugh. And I didn't understand because I just assumed that they would want to do this. And they said, no, this is for fun. If I did this for money, then I wouldn't enjoy it. I'd be stressing out all the time about getting my next one and yada, yada, yada. And here I am like 30 years later. They were right. They were right. I still enjoy it though.
Yes.
It's still two things. One, I get to work with other people who are as motivated and talented. And that is one of the most inspiring and like fun highs I ever get to experience, is working with other people who are challenging me. And two, like, I don't know, for all the stress, I still get to learn and do and see new places and meet new people and all that stuff that I don't think I would necessarily get in another job unless I was like a spy or something like that. I dig it.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's a lot. I've had a lot of friends that are artists and stuff, and I'm like, why aren't you selling your art, or why aren't you doing this full time? And they're like, because then it'll be work.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand it. Mm-hmm. That's also why I do.
There must be a sweet spot though, right?
Yeah.
Where like you love something or you like something enough to do it and it never becomes a chore, it gets ruined for you. And then there's something else that you love, 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 that you don't need to turn into a business because it's just for you. It is truly just for you. There has to be a sweet spot for those two things.
Yeah, I think that it is. And sometimes I think it's also there's that maturity, right? Of knowing when to be and allow it to be just for you
Huh.
versus that, I really am having fun with this. Why not? Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think that that's where sometimes that's finding that sweet spot, like you were saying, is also important to be like, nah, it's okay. I can do this
Yeah.
just for fun and I will survive.
Yeah. 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 Well,
Yeah.
then, like you were saying, yeah, maturity, because like then you start to understand time management in a more profound way. It's not just like how you fill your week or fill your weekend, but like looking back a number of years, you really start to see where your energy went and how that was fruitful or maybe even toxic for you, depending on where you put it. So yeah, it takes a little bit of time to kind of understand that.
Yeah. And I also want to not ever be at that point where, oh, I'll try it later. I'll try it later. I'll try it later. And then later never happens.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. I mean, that's like, yeah, that's a real
Mm-hmm.
FOMO is real. FOMO is
Yeah.
real. You
Yeah.
want to do
And
it now because you don't know. You
mm-hmm.
don't know. I
Yeah,
get that.
exactly. What is something you think people might automatically assume when they first meet you?
That I'm as much of a prick as I look like. Um, no, isn't that funny? Like, you ever meet someone
Oh yeah.
and they just are so nasty to you and you bend over backwards. Usually I bend over backwards because I'm too much of a people pleaser. And then all of a sudden, like after doing it over and over and over for a couple weeks or whatever, all day, depending on the scale of time we're talking about, then they're like, I totally thought you were a jerk. And I was like, yeah, that's how I come off sometimes. Sorry. That's probably what I would say.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we have an era around us. Like there's some people that say, "Oh, I have like people will say, "Oh, I know I have that like resting bitch face." Or in other cases,
Oh,
people are like, "Oh, they have this." And I go, "For me, I think sometimes people think either I'm way extroverted and okay with being the social butterfly, which I'm okay with doing, but that takes
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of work on
yeah,
my
yeah,
part because I'm an introvert.
yeah,
And then sometimes too, the whole, oh, she may not be approachable. I'm like, no, 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 no.
yeah.
I'm the girl that will help you hide the body. I am so approachable. But sometimes that's also, I've learned that sometimes that's more telling on them, on themselves and
Hmm.
what they're
Always,
thinking. Oh, yeah.
always.
And so I'm like, well, okay, well, that's on you, boo. I'm
Yeah,
here though. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
always, always. I think that we, man, what was I gonna say? I had a really good insight for that. Oh yeah, no, like what you're saying about the first impressions. Like I've got broad shoulders and a square jawline, and I get to act for a living, so I can come across pretty easily as things come easily to me. And it's not until people start to get to know me, they're like, oh, he's like pretty laid back and works his ass off. And then usually they kind of warm up to me. But before then, people can be kind of people can be a little guarded around me because they're just kind of, I don't know, there's just some inert resentment of, oh, this guy, this one of these frickin' guys. But then I just kind of, you can't please everybody. So you just be who you are, and people are either receptive to it. Like you just said, yeah. Like eventually they talk to you long enough, they know that you're the guy who will help them hide the body. They can count on you. You're down to earth and trustworthy and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Loyal to a fault.
Right.
Yeah, I have learned that I made that like not that I've had to, but I'm like, I'm okay now with reminding certain individuals that I know how to hide a body. So you might want to try to be nicer to me. And sometimes
Yeah.
also learning, having people to know that your own self-worth is a lot. It takes a lot. And so it's one of those things like, I am happy to help you hide the body, but please remember that I know how to hide a body. Just
Don't
saying.
underestimate me.
Yeah, exactly. Don't.
Yes.
But also, it's one of those things where sometimes we just assume, but also, what other people might say about you. But I also know sometimes, like, I would never, okay, I may not want to say never. I think maybe if I was younger, in my, early 20s, I might have had that inkling of, oh, he's good looking, you know,
Mhm.
he's not going to want to talk to me or whatever, even if it's on that
Mm.
friendship level. Now I'm like, yo,
Mm.
Patrick.
Oh God.
Not that you're not good. I still think you're good looking, but I'm like, yo, Patrick.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty easy. Because I just wanna, I don't know. Like I said, I'm halfway done with this journey, right? So I want to enjoy the second half. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. It's always a fun thing. When was the last time you tried something new?
Last time I tried something new, I want to think of like some food that I made or somebody made for me, but nothing's coming to mind. I have tried recently, um, not yelling as my first, um, so not my first way to communicate. Because you're only yelling if you've tried to communicate it 3 or 4 times and no one's
Right.
fucking listening. But even after that, then to just like rather than go to the reaction that is then giving me, to try to strategically and deliberately change tactics to try to achieve what I want. And in that breath that I have to take, usually there's enough time to empathize a little more effectively to understand why they're not hearing me the first 3 times. And then I'm able to sort of more effectively get what I need. Yeah.
How's that working out for you?
That doesn't mean I'm not frustrated, but it does do 2 things for me. It means there's less yelling, period. And it means that the people I'm talking to, whether it's my kids, my wife, someone in traffic, I don't know. It means that there is less negativity on their end. So hours later, the water's clear, everything's easy, rather than all the residual BS of whatever I stirred up because I wasn't getting what I needed for whatever reason. So there is a reason, but there is, method behind it. And
Yeah. I was laughing because there's similar in this house. I swear it's one of those things where if we were to live closer together, we'd be like, are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? Because it's similar in my household when I'm like, I get why are you yelling? And I'm like, because I've said this how many times, and this is the only time that you listen to me is when I get loud. But I'm trying not to, like you, trying to figure out, okay, how else can I get my point freaking across?
yeah. And sometimes it's me, like I didn't listen close enough to whatever was happening on their end. And that's why I'm so frustrated, because there was more information that I missed for whatever reason. And so the new thing I'm trying is to be deliberate about it and try to understand a little bit more before I fly off the handle, so to speak.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's a good. I think this has been great. And other people will be like, "Oh, I went on this adventure and the stuff that in here we are having about like, hey, our behavior. We're holding ourselves accountable."
Look how responsible we
Responsible.
freaking are.
No, right? We're so enlightened.
Oh, in line. I'm not even sitting. I'm like 3 inches off my stool in the booth here. It's amazing.
So, as a guest that you've been here before, for our Patreon segment, I make you choose between two things in a fun game of Would You Rather. And one of the questions is, would you rather tell everyone your guilty pleasures or never partake in those guilty pleasures ever again? I want to say 99.999% of the guests have always said, "Oh, I'm going to tell them." There is no follow-up question as to what are those guilty pleasures. And it always becomes a bit of that running joke afterwards. We're like, "Yeah, no, don't worry about it. When you come back, we'll talk about those guilty pleasures," and never really have until now. So,
Huh, I get it. I get
yeah,
it.
just for
Challenge
fun.
accepted. Challenge
Yes.
accepted.
So,
Yeah, I would definitely keep my guilty pleasures, then not have to do them ever again, or not get to do them. Uh, the biggest one, I love. I'm gonna have to unpack this for a second. I love conspiracy theories. It's so stupid. I love conspiracy theories, and I hate that they have been ruined by the last like 10 years of internet. They've just destroyed them. Like when I grew up, my mom had these books that she got from like Time Life, some subscription or whatever they're called, unsolved mysteries or something like that. I don't know. But they're like every month a new one would come. It would be like, one would be UFOs, one would be like about ESP, another one would be about like secret societies, but there was always some cool thing, and it was somehow connected to like the supernatural and some sort of alternative explanation for he was telling stories. It was some alternative explanation for what the world is around us, right? Why things are the way they are, what we see when we look up. And I was so in love with it. But now it's like, oh my God, they've ruined it. They've ruined it. And I think it's because it comes from like two different places. Like there's a place to approach conspiracy theories that is so just pure and curiosity and fantasy based. That's kind of where I live. And then there's this other place that's like comes from just like anger and resentment. I'm not getting what I need. And because we are storytelling creatures, they make shit up that makes them feel better because they're so angry and resentful. And that those conspiracy theories can go off the rails so fucking fast. Then someone ends up showing up at a pizza place with a fucking gun. You know what I mean? Like it's out of control. And because, we're connected in a way that we weren't, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, the consequences are so much heavier. So I still love conspiracy theories. And this is why I feel guilty about it, because I understand it's like it's not the same fun, silly thing that it used to be. Now it's like, I remember a job I had, like a summer job I had. I worked in a factory, and it was me and this one other dude in front of a machine, and we just talked all day. Came from very different backgrounds, but he said some of the craziest shit I had ever heard in my life. And I was like 17, right? 16. So, and he was probably 24 or 25. And I just looked forward to every day because it was going to be some other wackadoodle explanation for why people are the way they are, or the government is set up the way it's set up, or some crazy explanation for something. And now I feel like when I meet somebody and they say something that is way out of left field, I get defensive in a way that I'm like, what is he about to say? What crazy, awful, violent thing are they about to suggest? And that sucks. That like that joy of that fun, weird thing that people have tucked in their mind somewhere because they just don't have enough information, or because they had a crazy grandfather who also had some crazy ideas or whatever. That is gone now. And I'm filled with this like terror that I'm going to end up with the person who's, about to commit some horrible atrocity. And then what am I, like a mandatory reporter? I got to say something about it now. Dear
Mm,
God. So anyway,
yeah.
that's why it's a guilty pleasure, but I'll
Hmm.
never give them up because it's like a fun, I don't know.
So
I love
did
stories.
did you used to watch Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack as the host?
Yeah.
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 I mean,
Yeah.
come on. Like
Hmm.
that. I mean,
The my things were like the crop circles.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
things like that for me, those are like those conspiracy theories too about like how those were made. And
Watching them make them,
yeah,
watching
and
them debunk them,
right. But then
watching.
also having
No,
that
you go.
moment where they're saying yes, but see, that is one way that potentially you can do it. But then it was also debunked on the debunking because there was
Yes.
something else happening in the atmosphere, or that was
Yes.
how things were bent. Well, you did it this way, the grass broke, and in this
Oh God.
circle, they're not broken. I'm going, aha, aliens.
Anything, any ancient civilizations
Yes.
that disappeared, any ancient
Oh yeah,
aliens,
yeah.
all of it. I love
Mhm.
it. I
Yeah.
love it.
I grew up watching that. For those that
I
don't know what
love it.
Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Slack is, look it up. It's called Google. But they do have them on reruns sometimes, and it's always fascinating for me
Yeah.
just to see the simplification back then, but also like the okay, cool. Sometimes we still don't know how things are done, and it's okay if we were for those that might think it is aliens or other things and
Yes.
stuff like that. So it's always fun. But yeah, okay.
Ghosts,
Yes.
psychics, all
Hmm.
of it. I love
Yeah.
it. I can't
Yeah.
get enough. Can't get enough.
Yeah, that was a fun show.
But when it's fun, right?
Yes,
It's
exactly. See, that's to me, that's when I
gotta
think
stay
of,
pure.
yeah, it's for me when I hear conspiracy theory, I always automatically think like crop circles and aliens and Elvis Presley. Is he or is he
Yes.
not passed?
Yes.
Was he a spy? Who knows? All that fun stuff. Not on that other side of conspiracy theories that people sometimes do about the negative
They
things.
go
But
dark. They go
yeah, they go
dark.
dark. I'm like, I just want to know about those not crop circles, but those figures that are that you can only see them from way up high that have been made like eons ago, and we don't know how they did them. The pyramids, how the hell they was
Mhm.
picked up. Or
Yeah.
we even here in Florida, we have Coral Castle, where it's and there's a lovely romantic story behind it, which is probably why I love it. And it's about this guy that started to make a castle for his soon to be wife that was coming over from Poland. She never made it because she passed away, but
Oh.
was making this castle out of limestone. And he was
Uh-huh.
5'4" with, back in the 19, like 18,
Sure.
late 18. How the hell was he moving a ton of that lime stone to make a door that swings by one index finger being pushed? So there's a lot of things like that. They're going, oh, okay. So those are when I think of conspiracy theories, those are the fun kinds that I'm always thinking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think
So
that's
yeah.
a romance novel you need to write. Like this guy toiling away.
Making a
Oh,
castle for the long lost love.
yeah. The long list. But like the guy that watches him or the girl that watches him as he tries to build this thing, and then she's got her own thing going on. And then the whole thing is a metaphor for um, how we can do these really hard things even by ourselves. But
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't matter if no one is around to see it anymore. Talk about, oh, I love this. Maybe I'll write
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, there you go. I
it.
would probably turn into a PNR at that moment in time where she's watching him and he's struggling and then he goes to sleep and then she has some magical powers that makes whatever he was thinking about doing and then done. Um he's like, did I do
That's one
this?
way out. That's one way to solve it.
But yes,
Okay.
you should write that. That's for sure. Um,
I like it.
well, we're
As long
getting
as you
to
promise to read it.
yes, of course. Anything that you've narrated, I've listened to it. So the same thing would be as if you wrote it. I've even
Ah,
seen shows that I haven't caught up on soap operas in General Hospital for eons. And I'm like, that's the episode that Patrick's on. Try to do some Google search to so I'm not totally lost on the story since I haven't watched the show in forever.
okay.
And then I'm like,
Sonny's still up to it. He's still
yeah.
up to it, man. He's
There's a
causing
conspiracy
trouble.
theory. How the hell is he still up to it? You know?
Hopefully Joey Novak is just biding his time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I just read in Deadline that they just actually shook up the writers' room. There's some new leadership there, And maybe they just need to hear a podcast where someone reminds them that Joey Novak is the worst kind of trouble. And it doesn't matter if he's just running an ice cream stand on Coney Island now. He's ready to go back to Port Charles.
Oh yeah.
He's ready. He is
Yeah, he's been
ready.
planning this with that ice, the whole thing with the
Oh
ice
yeah.
cream and stuff like that.
Maybe he turned over a new leaf. I don't know. Maybe he found a new way to be. I don't know.
Yes.
But Joey's ready to come play, I'm sure.
Yeah. So yes, so that answers your question. If you write it, I would read it. So we are getting to the end of our chat here, but before we go, I wanted to kind of briefly talk about you reprising your role as Delancey in TJ London's The Rebel and Redcoat Saga. The Rebel's coming out in audio this summer, and you guys are going to start recording now in June with different timelines here and stuff like that. And you get to be Delancey again, and you're coming back into this world, which every single time I've talked to you, previously, you seem to love it. You love that character, that role, because he's such a douchebag and a bad guy.
He's not a well-adjusted human. He's not what we would call well-regulated. You know what I mean? He's got some demons.
Yes, you play him so well, though.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's fun. It's fun that this has turned into such a big a world, and this team of narrators and producers and everybody have I've become friends with has grown, and those relationships have really deepened. It's been really cool to be a part of.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to see what else the TJ as the author comes up with, because sometimes she has shared it with me, but also even in the conversations with you guys on previous podcasts, how sometimes she will put things just to have you say them to see how it comes out of your mouth for shits and giggles, but other times to just like that one time where she's like, I'm gonna have to write a hero for Patrick because he's always been my villain, she says.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I
Yeah.
loved when she mentioned in one of those interviews I sat in with her, she mentioned how fun it is to be writing once you have this cast, a team that you've worked with and you bring back. Because when you're writing, you're really hearing their voices in your head. It's not just something you made up. So that's a cool thing to be a part of, even when I'm not in the room. I'm in the room, right?
Yeah, that is cool. So I'm looking forward to hearing it. I've heard those clips that we did the cast reveal video, and so we got a bit of a teaser with you guys saying some of those fun lines and stuff, and kind of giving us some insights as to what it is going to be like when we get the whole book in audio.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's my next one to prep. I'm finishing a sci-fi thing right now, and or a sci-fi romance thing right now, and then I like to clear my schedule because it's always a thick tome, TJ's stuff, and I usually only have a slice of it. So I know that I need some time to sit and enjoy and do the whole book before I can move on to prepping the next one after that. So that's coming up. It's probably, I don't know, end of next week. I'll start to get doing that, and that'll be fun.
that'll be fun. And so, what else do you have on your docket that you can tell us about that's coming up next for you?
There's one I just finished a little while ago. The guy reached out to me about doing 2 sequels. A horror book called The Nightmare Machine by a guy named Tim White, an independent author, and it was such a fun, very it's a very thinky horror novel about a team of people who were trying to keep the world from falling apart, fighting an ancient Babylonian god that really examines the tension between sacrificing for a group versus pursuing what we need to live our own, fulfilling lives. The tension between those two things. Really beautiful, thought-provoking, gory. It's a horror, but really beautiful characters, and it was a lot of fun to do. But then I just finished this other one that is going to be releasing very soon, called The Art of Love, in parentheses, and Loathing. Yeah, The Art of Love and Loathing by Stephen Daniel Ruiz. And it was just the most beautiful uh, depiction of this writer who his life is falling apart, and he's trying to figure out. He's not trying to figure out. He's just flailing, but getting to be this guy who's just trying to figure out where the fucking ground is all the time was delightful because he's a writer, so he's really funny and very sardonic, and that was a good thing because a lot of times when I'm getting to do the romance stuff, I only get to do a little bit of the sardonic stuff if there's that kind of character in it. But this one was like all that all the time, and I just it tickled me to do it. So that's The Art of Love and Loathing. But the two, I wanted to tell you guys about some romances. There's a series that I've been on for a while called Monsters Love Curvy Girls by Michelle Mills. And they're so fun because it's my sweet spot of this sci-fi and romance because it's all monster, alien romance stuff. And it's like just that for me anyway, just this side of camp, a lot of it. I get to make really big, broad choices, but still keep it, real and grounded and have stakes, but wildly fun. And the newest one is his Human Runaway. And then a little novella that's like a companion piece called Her Alien Husband. So that's Monsters Love Curvy Girls. And it's like book, I don't know, 7 or 8 or something like that by Michelle Mills. And then there's this other series I started on this summer by a writer named Lulu Moore. It's a pretty sprawling series, and I've gotten to do 2. I did one over the summer. I think it got released in the fall called The Third Baseman. The series is called The New York Lions. And then there's different that's the universe. It's this baseball team in New York. It's like a third professional baseball team. And it lives very much in a contemporary New York that we know and understand. But they go into all of the lives of the baseball players and their paramours and their families. And it's really a cool thing. I'm not doing all of them because there's lots of very different characters, and she wants to do service to that. But I got to do one a couple weeks ago, I think it came out. There's a whole section of it called the Tuesday Night Club. And it's about these 3 guys who went to college together, wildly successful now. So it's got a little bit of a billionaire romance component to it, but it's also very much a baseball story. So baseball romance, professional team romance. And it's called New York Lions, Tuesday Night Club, book 3. And this one's called The Show. And the author's Lulu Moore. So I know it's been getting great response. People love it. Third Baseman is the other one I did. So definitely check it out because it's a lot of fun. And I don't know, I really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah. We love it when you guys have fun narrating the books that you're performing.
I mean, I'm always having fun, but some of them
you
just feel a little bit more like you really put it out of the park. Excuse the
pun.
extended metaphor. But I really some of them like you really do, and you're like, I hope people hear this.
Yeah.
And then you start to see on social media people dig it, and you're like, yes,
absolutely. That's a lot of fun to look forward to. So that's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Patrick, for being part of this year's Audiobook Lovin Series and helping celebrate our 10th anniversary. This has been so much fun.
Oh God, this is the best. And my kids came home from school and they didn't like interrupt us in the middle of it. It's kind of a miracle.
Well, we would have put them on the show, why not?
We could have.
Yeah.
Next time. We'll get
definitely. Everyone, thanks for hanging out with us today. We hope you've enjoyed this chat as well as the series. Make sure to follow Patrick on social media if you have yet to do so. You will find their links on the Audiobook Lovin 2024 series page over at Viviana Enchantress of Books website. Until next time, happy listening.
Visit today's episode post to listen to sound clips of some of the books we discussed and enter the month-long giveaway. If you enjoyed the Audiobook Lovin podcast series and you want more, join the Audiobook Lovin podcast Patreon for early access to podcasts, exclusive content like the Would You Rather game and dinner party guests, and additional incentives such as bloopers, graphics, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobooklovin. Thank you for joining Viviana and her guests for this podcast, and we hope you tune in again as we continue to celebrate Audiobook Month. The Audiobook Lovin Series is hosted by Viviana, the Enchantress of Books. Please make sure to visit the main page linked within the post to learn more about the entire Audiobook Lovin Series and the enchanting author and narrator guests who have joined us over the years. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a review wherever you listened, and please follow us on social media platforms and subscribe to the Viviana, the Enchantress of Books newsletter. Until next time, happy listening. Audiobook Lovin hopes you have enjoyed this program.